Welcome to my channel. In today's class, the subject we'll be treating is physical and health education, and our topic of discussion is communicable diseases. I'm William Barakadini. The course outline: introduction to the course, types of communicable diseases, agents of transmission, mode of transmission, chain of transmission, and how to control or how to prevent infections. Now, objectives. At the end of this class, you should be able to define communicable diseases, list and explain types of communicable diseases depending on source, list and explain agents of transmission, explain mode of transmission, and explain the chain of transmission, and lastly, explain how to prevent infections. Now, what are communicable diseases? Communicable diseases are diseases transmitted from one person to another, and they can be caused by infectious agents transmitted from a reservoir to a susceptible host at a communicable period. That is, any infection that can be transmitted from one person or animal, which is the reservoir, to another person, which is the susceptible host, is known as a communicable disease. What do I mean by communicable period? A communicable period is the time period required for transmission of an infectious agent from a reservoir to a susceptible host. That is, the time during which an infectious agent may be transferred directly or indirectly from an infected person to another. Types of communicable diseases. There are different types of communicable diseases depending on the source, which include respiratory infections, intestinal infections, arthropod-borne infections, surface infections, and sexually transmitted infections. What are respiratory infections? These are the types of infections that occur through respiratory organs and usually interfere with normal breathing. They can be contacted when having contact with a droplet of infected person who sneezes or coughs. Example, we have tuberculosis. Someone that is having tuberculosis, the moment he coughs or sneezes, the infection or the infectious agents will be released to the atmosphere and suspended in the air. If another person, unprotected, now come in contact with the atmosphere, that particular atmosphere, then from there, the infection will be transmitted into the person. We have intestinal infections. They are the infections that occur through fecal-oral route, which is the route of transmission of diseases, where pathogens in the fecal particles pass from one person to the mouth of another. That is where bacteria or viruses found in the stool of a person or animal are swallowed by another person. Examples: we have hepatitis, poliomyelitis, typhoid fever, food poisoning, hookworm infections, and others. Then we have arthropod-borne infections. These are the infections that insects like ticks, houseflies, mosquitoes, transmit to human through biting. We have malaria, filariasis, and plague. Surface infections, they are usually occur through breakage in the skin. It is wound, when someone is having wound on the skin and the wound is now left opened or untreated, then it will allow the entrance of infectious agents through the wound. Example, we have leprosy, tetanus, trachoma, rabies. And lastly, sexually transmitted diseases. This occurs when having sexual contact with an infected person unprotected. When you are having a kind of sexual contact with someone and the person is not protected from there, the infection will be transmitted into the person. Example, you have AIDS, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Now the agents of transmission. The biological agents of transmission, we have parasites, fungi, bacteria, rickets, viruses. Those are the biological agents of transmission. And mode of transmission. The modes of transmission, there are two major modes of transmission. And number one, you have direct mode, which is the transfer of infectious agents from an infected host to a new host without intermediates such as food, air, water, or other animals. Under this, we have person-to-person transmission, and we have transplacental transmission, which is the transmission of infectious agents or infection from the pregnant woman to the fetus through placenta. And number two, we have indirect mode of transmission, which is the transfer of infectious agents to a new host through intermediates such as air, food, objects, or substances in the environment. We have airborne transmission, you have vector transmission, and vehicle-borne transmission. And the chain of transmission ranges from the infectious agents, which is the carrier. The infectious agent is the carrier of infection from one person to another, like the bacteria, virus, fungi, parasite that I listed earlier. Now to the reservoir. The reservoir is a place where the infectious agent normally present before infecting a human. And to the route of exit. The route of exit is a site which the infectious agent gets out of the reservoir. Then to the mode of transmission. The mode of transmission is the route by which an infectious agent is transmitted from reservoir to another host. Then to the route of entry. The route of entry is a site through which the infectious agent enters the host. And lastly, to the susceptible host. And a susceptible host is an individual who are likely to develop a communicable disease after exposure to the infectious agent. You can see the infectious agent to the reservoir. From the reservoir to a route of exit. From the route of exit to mode of transmission. Mode of transmission to route of entry. From route of entry to the susceptible host. How do we prevent ourselves against this infection? Number one, we have improvements of personal hygiene. The personal hygiene is very, very much important. Cleanliness. You must always be clean. You eat what is clean. You wear what is clean. You sleep where it's clean, where the place that is very clean. Water you'll be drinking, that you'll be using to take your bath, must be from a pure source. And number two, improvement of social hygiene. Social hygiene means how we use our environment. We must clean and keep our environment clean, and as well the way we relate with people in the society, we must be very, very careful. We must be very, very careful. Take for instance the pandemic, the case that is affecting the whole world today, COVID-19, coronavirus. Now, what led to the rapid spread of this virus is because the people did not maintain social hygiene, which is social distance. The moment we had the outbreak of these diseases, then it is very much important for us to always keep social distance. It's not a must you handshake, you hug again. Now, if we can prevent ourselves through this means, then to contact this thing will be very difficult. Number three is awareness about health. There should be concrete awareness about health. What are the things that we need to do to maintain a good health? What are the things that if we engage ourselves in, it will affect our health status? And lastly, we have awareness about diseases. There should be seminar or orientation about diseases. What are diseases and what are the effects of diseases? How do we contact it and how do we prevent it? Here we come to the end of the class today, but before I go, here is the assignment. Number one, what is communicable diseases? Number two, what is communicable period? Number three, list types of communicable diseases based upon source. Number four, draw a typical chain of transmission. And number five, how can we prevent communicable diseases? Thanks.